Greetings, learners. You are now at the Sculpture Center Skill Level F. This is where we take everything we have learned up until now and we put it together where we're paying close attention to craftsmanship. So let's see what we're focusing on. It says I can create and follow a plan. Well, we've done that before. I can create and use a paper template. Ooh, that's new. I can add clean details. So we've added details before, but this time we're going to focus on keeping them clean. I can add clean textures. I can create a 3D form, and I can slip and score correctly. This means we're going to make sure, watch Miss Russ, to clean up any of that slip so that we have that really fine, clean line and people can't see the little gooey parts that were there from slipping. Okay, so how to make this work? Well, tilting us down, let's get started. Okay, first off, a paper plan. So you're going to want to get a big sheet of paper and create a plan. I kept mine pretty simple, which is I'm just going to do an R for Miss Russ. Then, if I want to make this 3D, I can't just stack layers and layers of clay. I'm going to have to make it hollow. And so I have to decide how tall I want it. And I have to cut out a strip of paper that goes do you see how this strip of paper goes all the way around my design? And then I would have to remember to include the inside bit. Now you could make whatever you wanted, but you want to stay away from something that you could just draw out into the clay and squish together. This is really for a more complex idea. Okay, once you have this, you're going to go ahead and start making your slabs. I already made the slabs for the R, so let's focus on how to make slabs for this piece. So my goal is to have this be as much of one consistent long piece as possible because the less slipping and scoring, the better. So now we're going to really practice that wedging. So you're going to have like leftover clay and pieces of clay, but you want to make sure that it's nice and smooth every single time. So how do you do that? Well, to wedge it, you pick it up from the back of your hands, and then I'm going to take my palms and I'm going to squish it into the clay. Kind of roll forward, up into my hands, and then I squish it down. Up, squish, up, squish, up. It's like I'm making a tube. It's like a tube of bread. Up, squish with my palms, up, squish. Now, I could turn this if I wanted more of a ball and keep going, but I kind of want a tube. So I'm going to get it long, and then I'm going to pay attention to my thing. I'm looking for, see how I still have little cracks in there? I want all of that gone. So I'm lifting and squishing until all of those cracks are gone. And essentially, I'm squishing the clay into itself. So that's looking pretty good. Okay, I'm going to take my clay, take my rollers, and again, we know I could roll like this forever, but it's a lot faster if I kind of use my fist to get it started, and I make sure if I do that, I'm flipping it over, okay, and I'm going to kind of hit it on its side because I want it long, not wide. Okay, once I'm close, then I can start that rolling process, and you're going to notice I started on this side. And then as I go, let's see if I lift this up a little bit, you can see, watch this side, it's going to move. So I'm squishing this into place. Did you see it? It hopped. So I squish this into place and then watch it. Do you see it? So I'm giving the clay someplace to go. Once I get about halfway, it's going to start hopping the other direction. So now I go this way and it's going to kind of hop forward. And I'm wanting those things to roll like this, moving it forward. Oh, Miss Russ. Okay, now I make this look easy because I have a lot of practice. Let's see. Yours doesn't have to be this long, but let's see, does it make it? Oh, Miss Russ, it just makes it look dead all the way. Taking my needle tool, holding the paper in place, I cut along my paper. Now, if it wasn't long enough, I would just take my scraps, ball them up. I'd have to make a new one, and then I just have to slip and score it together. Okay, once I have all my pieces cut out, and only once I have all my pieces cut out, can I start building. But I gotta show you something that's kind of tricky first. So, if we look at this, this is like the top of the R, okay? And that's gonna levitate on top of this little ledge right here. But look, if I want texture on both sides, if I do this and put the textured piece and the textured piece like this, this texture will be on the inside. I have to visualize that this has to be upside down. Well, the easiest way to do that is, let's go ahead and pull off my texture plate, is to instead take this R and flip it over, okay? So it doesn't matter if you have an R or what your design is, if you're doing a fish or whatever it is, you always have to remember that in order for them to line up with textures, and you don't want, if I flip this over, this texture would all come off because I was pushing it into the table. So I have to flip it over, okay? Then I cut around this piece. This Russ is going a little too fast because she's always trying to keep the video short. Okay, now here's the next mistake that's easy to make, is that you want this to come off in all one big chunk, you'll tear your R. Also, look, that pinky thumb rule still works. I don't want any, this time it's the reverse. I want to make sure things are at least as thick as my thumb so that there's space for everything to join onto. Okay, so to peel this stuff off, instead I'm going to do cuts. And where it wants to easily pull away, I cut. So where it wants to easily pull away, I cut. Okay, this guy, I'm going to poke through with my finger. Ta-da! Now, I made that look a lot simpler than it is for most students the first time out. So just be patient with yourself. Now we see if I turned this over, I want an R that stands up. My textures are going to be on both sides. And then knowing that I have to put space in between there, we start that whole process. Remember, so just like the last video, I'm going to lay these out like this, and I'm going to plan where I have to slip and score. So because I want texture on the outside, this won't work. See, it can't go in there. So I have to realize everything's going to get built on top, which means this is all going to get scored right there. This is all going to get scored, and then again, remembering that they go like that, this is all going to get scored. Now no one will see this inside, so I don't have to worry about cleaning that up. Okay, then what's touching? Well, it's not that, it's this. So that means the sides of this piece need scored, and the side here needs scored, and now it all needs slipped. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is to put the slip on the long piece because it's easy to get all that slip onto there. You just want to make sure that you haven't missed anywhere, so look close to make sure it's all gooey and gross. Okay, then I always want to do any inside pieces first. So knowing that I need to do an inside piece first, and I have this one all prepped, I squish it down and I listen for the fart if I can, and then watch. I slowly move it around. Now, when I get to a seam, this is going to be different. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to overlap it, and then I'm going to, remember, we always cut down. I'm going to cut down with that knife, but then don't forget, I didn't slip and score in here. So I need to score both these pieces. Need to get a little slip, and now I squish it into place. Okay? Okay, now, I kind of just squish these down so they're all the same level. Okay, next piece. Let's see if I did my cutting correctly. So I'm going to squish this in place, making sure I squish everywhere. And then take a corner. Now I want that to be a nice firm corner, so I'm really going to take the time to move that clay around and squish it down. Miss Russ is probably moving 10 times faster than you will. You might also find that you need another set of hands and you have to ask a friend for help because this can take some time, but Miss Russ is going very quick. Making sure, okay, now I'm at the edge again, so I cut off the extra. I don't forget that I haven't scored here and I haven't scored here. I haven't put on slip. It would be a shame to miss messing up our seams, and I squish it in place. Okay, now we have to remember, if I put this together, wow, there's no hole to let out the air. So don't forget that the very last thing we're going to do is put holes in these bottom pieces, but we're not going to do it yet because otherwise when we add this on, it's going to get all grumpy pants. So we put this down, and because I have the paper template, and then I really got to work to squish every little bit in place. Okay, now a lot of times this is where we would stop and we'd call it done because look, ta-da, it stands up, looks great, right? But, oh, this is about keeping a nice, clean look. So instead, we are gonna switch over our tools and we are gonna find a way to create a nice, clean look. There's a couple of options. Option number one is to create smooth. You can do that with a knife like this. You can start smoothing and cleaning it up like that. Or if that's not your bag, because smooth is hard, smooth is super hard, you can use rollers and you can create a nice clean look by just adding a texture to it instead of like trying to clean it all up pretty. You can add a texture to it. But what if you do want to get that nice smooth look, or you want more control over your piece? Because look, the roller isn't going to get everything. That's where we use ribs. There are ones that look like this, and there are ones that have textures. So this lets you really get into the weeds, and you can kind of smooth it out beforehand, and then you can bring in your rib, and you have a lot more control over the texture, but this takes more time. This takes a lot more time. Or you can create it smooth. So if I go here, and I can even take these and I go different directions. Now if your clay is wiggling and wobbling on you, that's a sign we actually want to let it dry out a little bit. These tools work best on clay that's kind of hard, not gooey and soft. So if your thing starts moving too much, then we want to switch over. Okay, not forgetting that you of course would need to go in and cut out some air holes on the bottom and put your name on it, and making sure that you don't see any goobers anywhere. Enjoy your creating process at level F at the Sculpture Center. Bye!